Okay, I just want to make a very, very simple point on Islam. Now, as we know, Europe has some serious problems with Islamic Muslim immigration in places like Sweden, Germany, France, and also Britain. I mean, from what I understand, I think London has about 400 acid attacks a year. That's people getting battery acid thrown in their faces, making them permanently disfigured. People getting their throats cut, no-go zones developing, people walking down the street holding up signs saying death to people who insult Islam or Muhammad and all that sort of thing, and Sharia will rule the world. And what we also see is a very curious and concerning lack of serious political pushback. I mean, if you've got people walking down your street doing that sort of thing, I mean, what are they even doing in your country? If they believe that, you don't need it, you don't want it. But there is no pushback. And I wouldn't be surprised if a big part of the reason for that is simply that leaders are being, general leaders in Britain, London, wherever, are actually being intimidated. You know, I mean, look at Geert Wilders. He speaks out against Islam in a very objective and honest way, certainly not in a hateful way, but he has to change location every 3 weeks to avoid getting assassinated. So, that kind of intimidation is real and it's powerful. Now, New Zealand is in a situation where we don't have those problems or nothing like them at all. But if we open the floodgates to immigrants that are not vetted properly, because they can't be realistically vetted properly, from the Middle East and Northern Africa and places like that, then there is no reason at all to think that we could not develop the same problems that London, Britain, Germany, Sweden and elsewhere are developing. No reason at all. In fact, it's predictable. Now, that's all fair enough, of course. So what do we want to do in New Zealand? Looking at it from a completely objective, academic, non-Islamic phobic position. What we want to do is make damn sure we don't get any kind of fundamentalist core developing within New Zealand of Islam, because that is dangerous and ugly. We know that. That's not open to debate. Now, that's pretty obvious and it's all very well. But what we have at the moment, and I think this is probably what happened in Britain as well and other places, is that as soon as people say, hey, we need to make a serious investigation into Islam before we open the floodgates to let them in, that conversation is shut down by people screaming, you bigot, you Islamophobe, you racist, and all that sort of thing. There's pushback straight off the mark before the obvious investigation into Islam is conducted and the real conversations come up. And New Zealand, that is what we must avoid. We must talk about Islam if we want to be absolutely sure we never go down the road that Britain has gone down. I mean, there's an enormous amount to be gained for New Zealand to not go down that road, of course. I mean, while everybody else is shooting themselves in their foot, guess how attractive New Zealand's going to be? I mean, we're already getting a big surge of immigration coming into New Zealand from people who want to escape this Islamic problem, fundamentalist Islamic problem. So that's what we need to have. We need to have this conversation. We need to have it now, New Zealand. Not in 3 or 4 years' time. We need to have it now, right when we got people like Golriz Garaman who are screaming Islamophobia and bigot at people like me, which is ridiculous, for no good reason other than to effectively, I don't know if she's doing it wittingly, I'll be fair enough on that level, but effectively shut down the conversation before we can even have it, like no doubt happened in Britain. No way. Let's have the conversation now. Let's talk objectively about Islam. Where it can go right, where it can go wrong, how it goes wrong. We've got all of Europe to learn from before we make some really shocking mistakes. Let's learn from it. Let's not dare use objective thinkers and objective observers as pawns for slander, to call them Islamophobic. Because there's a lot to be afraid of with Islam. That's not open to debate. That's a fact. An absolute fact. So let's understand it. Let's have a mature conversation before we open the floodgates to Islam and Muslims. Thank you.